What is up, AFC North football fans, and welcome into another edition of the AFC North Roundtable powered by BetUS. Week 6 is in the books. We're here to recap it, but not just the games. A couple of wild moves that were made within the AFC North as well. A quarterback change in Pittsburgh and the top wide receiver gone in Cleveland. A lot to recap tonight within the AFC North. So without further ado, let's bring in the boys, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring in Chef Zay first, followed by Bobby Trossett, Zim, and Bubba. Fellas, week 6 has come and gone. A wild week, not just for the games, but in general for the AFC North this past weekend. And speaking of the division, let's go ahead and take a look at where it currently stands over on BetUS. And as you can imagine, right now, the way the Baltimore Ravens are looking, they deserve to be in the top spot. That's exactly where they are. Right now on BetUS, the Baltimore Ravens minus 325 to win the North. In second place, the Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 375. The Bengals at plus 750. The Cleveland Browns, a $100 bet would win you $12,500 on the Cleveland Browns to win the AFC North. That's currently the makeup of this division over on BetUS. Zay, before I say the promo code, is it worth mentioning whether or not the promo code should be used towards maybe a couple bucks on the Browns there or no?
I'm a gambling man. A little piece on the side, man. I mean, just for craps and giggles, But no, don't waste your money on that.
I don't know. It feels like it could be a fun one to throw down with that type of line. If you want to get in on that or any of the other lines currently up on BetUS, you can do so with the promo code YouTube150. That'll get you 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit and 125% bonus on your next two deposits after that. All right, so we will get to the games, but as mentioned, we got a couple of things to talk about outside of the games before we get into it. Let's start with the departure of Amari Cooper from the Browns to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills had a massive hole in the wide receiver room that needed to be filled. It is now filled with what was Cleveland's top weapon in Amari Cooper. The Bills get Amari Cooper for not much. What was it? A third round pick and a pick swap, right? Go ahead, Zach.
No, you said not much. I beg to differ on the not much.
Okay.
I mean, we got him for a fifth. We got him for a fifth. We got 2 back-to-back seasons over 1,000 yards. And, we got the juice that was, what we could get out of it. So is it anything to write home about? No, but we got him for a fifth and got back a third. I mean, hey, that's a win.
I guess from my perspective, I'm looking at it from when I say not much, the Bills being able to not have to spend the money the New York Jets just had to spend to acquire Davante Adams. They were able to restructure that deal. The Jets, of course, were acquiring Davante Adams yesterday, but they were able to restructure the deal regardless. They're going to have to pay Davante nearly $12 million over his time in New York. Meanwhile, the Bills get Amari Cooper for just over $800,000. They fill a big void in their wide receiver room, and it leaves another void on an offense for Cleveland right now that just seems to not be able to find their footing. Zay, I'll start with you here. I know that Amari Cooper was beloved in Cleveland. This just has to feel like salt in the wound at this point. Not only is Cleveland not playing well, but now you're watching guys depart because of that. Your thoughts on Amari Cooper, not only leaving the Browns, but leaving the Browns for an AFC contender, a rival, so to speak, down the lake there. Just your overall thoughts on the move.
I think it just reiterates the ball that was dropped from the organization as a whole, all the way up to Jimmy Haslam, to Paul T. Podesta, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski. They dropped the ball this past offseason. While we all sat here, myself thought that they did such a great job doing the running back sequence. They mishandled a lot of things. The backup quarterback situation, we're paying for it now because, I mean, you're 1-5. There should be a quarterback change, but that's neither here nor there. The Amari Cooper situation is what it is. It sucks because you didn't think Amari Cooper would fall into the trap like other receivers may have. And this offseason and the Brandon Ayuk trade news clearly ruffled his feathers, and it clearly got into his head because it's a night and day difference. And, there's more rumors going around that maybe he doesn't like Deshaun Watson. I don't know if that's the case, but, at this point, it's starting to feel like people just may not want to be with him. So you guys got yourself a good one. take care of him. I know Josh Allen's going to do wondrous things with Amari Cooper, who's not a diva in any sense, even despite how the situation may go. But it looks like the Browns are tanking. So Browns is the Browns, baby.
And that was my next question, and I'm going to swing it over to Bobby here. With this departure of Amari Cooper from Cleveland, is it safe to say the tank is on in Cleveland despite them not benching Deshaun Watson? How do you view this move?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that they're selling weeks prior to the deadline, we're entering week 7. They're trying to get any kind of compensation in return, draft picks wise. We know they have none of those available. So
no, we got a first-round pick this year, number 1.
What a shock. What a shock that you got one, Zay. I'm glad you at least have one coming up.
I'm about to say the last couple of years you haven't had one, right?
We know that, but we're talking about now. We have a pick.
No, I'm just asking a
It
question.
matters.
You haven't had them in the last 2 years, though, correct?
No.
Hell no, we ain't had them in 3 years.
It's been a minute, which is, it probably feels like it's your Super Bowl coming up in April because you haven't been able to enjoy the opening night of the draft the last Thursday in April. So, Zay, like I said in the pre-show, we're all here for you. We will continue to be here for you. And you just reach out to us if you need us.
To clarify once again, that move, the trade and its parameters surrounding it, the Bills send a 2025 third and 2026 seventh round pick to Cleveland for Amari Cooper and a 2025 sixth round selection that the Browns had from the Lions. Bubba, your overall thoughts on Cleveland and what this means for the Browns as they move off of Amari Cooper heading into week 7?
Well, when I seen that trade, I was like, "Oh my god!" Because hopefully the Steelers, could have been involved in that, but that wasn't the case. But I honestly got to say that Cleveland Browns, even though they're 1-5, they are going to try to spoil one of our 3 teams somewhere down the road. I see that, and I don't want to see it against Pittsburgh, but they didn't look too bad Sunday. I thought they were going to pull it out against Philadelphia, and I was going to almost eat my words. But I mean, he's going to a better place. And he probably wanted to get off the Cleveland train and get on the Buffalo train now. So,
Zim, how do you see it? Amari Cooper no longer there, and this is an offense that just hasn't been able to score to begin with. So what's it going to look like now without him? Zim's got to he's got to make sure the Bills with Amari Cooper aren't going to threaten that wide receiver room of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. He's got to make sure that that's not going to be a problem for his Bengals.
They have a connectivity issues. He got the win, so they put Cincinnati back in his name.
I see that
signal.
I like that.
The signal is just all throwing it all off. You got to turn that win meter down. Cincinnati, damn.
Zim's in a different room though than he usually is. Maybe that's what's up. I don't know if he's got the soundproofing isn't as good in there.
It's kind of a dope background there. The kitchen looks nice. Got some nice lighting up top.
That boy got a win sitting in press boxes next to the owner. This man been leveling up.
And now he's in the kitchen cooking up W's. I don't know what he's doing. He's tweeting.
You know what's crazy though? I'll give you a little scoop of what I feel like could happen in our direction. Mike Williams may be a candidate if I had to guess. They were asked about it in the press conference today. Deshaun Watson was specifically asked about if the Browns could find a way to get Mike Williams. And he's like, oh, Mike's my dude. That's Mike's my like. He went, but when a player goes and gives that extra little love. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mike Williams maybe find his way into Cleveland.
If you're a Browns fan, why would you even want Mike Williams at this point? Before the season,
it's not about wanting him. It's about what Deshaun wants because everything has been revolved around.
Why would you care what Deshaun wants?
Because they're not benching him. It's not about me. This is about Jimmy Haslam and the organization. They want Deshaun Watson no matter what. Did you hear what the coach said? Did you hear the blasphemy that came out of his mouth?
They don't want him. This is what this show is. This show, let me tell you what this show is.
They don't want him. Okay.
This is really like a chance to get you out of Browns Dookie stain land that you live in and get away from all that BS that they feed you all day. Nobody wants him. I don't know why you
but the owner. That's what you're not understanding.
Nobody wants
you
him.
You didn't pay $230 million to watch this
I
mission.
told you this was going to happen.
That's what I'm saying. So it's
this is not a therapy
you're
session.
speaking.
This is an actual.
You can't say it's not a therapy session when I'm
grabbing you to tell you the reality of your franchise.
They don't. The reality is you're wrong.
We all told you this before the season. that you committed a absurd
You're
amount of
sitting
money.
here saying no
How
one
come
wants
when-
them,
how
and I'm
come when
telling you
everybody
who
else
wants
talk,
them.
they
Because
got
you're
a chance to
wrong.
talk?
You're wrong. You
So,
said
but
that
it's
nobody
called an
wants
opinion,
him.
though.
The person who
The
wants
truth
him
sometimes
is
hurts
the
some people.
owner. The truth hurts for you because you're not listening. Exactly. You're not listening.
I
You
had to
said
have a
nobody
chance to
wants
speak.
him, and the one
I
person
had to
that
have a
wants him
chance to
is the
speak.
owner.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Zay,
That's
I'm going
right.
to give you 30 seconds. You tell me the reality of
You
the
had 5
Browns.
minutes.
Then I'm going to let Zim give his thoughts on what he thinks the current reality is.
The
Zay,
reality is it's a puppet show in Cleveland. Jimmy Haslam has no choice but to see it through with Deshaun Watson. They've made it very clear that they are not benching Deshaun Watson. And Kevin Stefanski has said double down in the same sentence saying that Deshaun Watson gives us the best chance to win. And he said it twice in the same sentence. So this is not about whether the fans want it, whether the players in the locker room want it, whether you want it. This is about Jimmy Haslam and the puppet show that's going on, wanting Deshaun Watson to be on the field, whether it's a punishment, whether he wants to be right, or whatever the case may be. That's what it is.
and Zim, you see it differently.
I see it very differently. I feel like this is something that we've told all of them before the season even started. When you put that absurd amount of money guaranteed for someone that's never even played in your uniform, that's never done anything, that's never accomplished anything, then at some point he has to actually go out there and do it. But if you're allocating that much funding to it, remember, this is money that they told us they got all the money. They're the richest team and they could buy anybody that they want. They treated it as though they didn't hear us saying this. But once you allocate that amount of money guaranteed to someone, you're forced to. He doesn't want to, he's forced to. Just like all billionaires, when something goes wrong or whatever, they figure out ways to get out of it or buy themselves out of it at some point. He's just in a point right now where a form of tanking probably would be playing him. You trying to tell us about Mike Williams or anybody else like that, like the season for you, I told you 2 weeks ago was over. Pack
What
it
happens
up.
when we beat you? What happens when we beat y'all this week? Y'all season
Even-
over? Or
even-
are you still
even-
gonna hold on a glimmer of hope?
And I also said
If we
3
beat y'all
weeks.
this week, is your season gonna be over? Yes or no?
I also
If we
said
beat y'all this week, is your season gonna be over? Yes or no?
moderator, I'm still on my time. I also
He
said
said 30 seconds. It's been a
No,
minute
he
and a half.
told you 30
Zim's
seconds.
Zim's got his time here. Then we'll let you rebuttal, Zay.
He told you 30 seconds because you already gave us 5 minutes. We listen, this has all been on writing on the wall before the season even started. So you saying that you're going to win or whatever, everybody in the comment section, correct me if I'm wrong. 3 weeks ago, I say he's going to come on the show and talk about beating division opponents or whatever as now his new Super Bowl. After they told us Amari Cooper was the best wide receiver in the division. Now Amari Cooper is drops. Now Amari Cooper is invaluable. Now we got this. Did you know Amari Cooper had a void year in his contract, so you're still on the hook for $23 million next year as well? I know a lot about this team and I know how money works. And when you're using that amount of money and you're guaranteeing it to 10 plus players and you're the second oldest team in the National Football League, this is what could happen. And you're watching it happen in real time.
See, I think that the difference between the two arguments here is almost null and void because the want becomes the need becomes the want. When you do pay Deshaun Watson what you do, you want it to work out so badly that you end up doing things that make no sense. You also need it to work out so badly because it looks so bad optically that if it doesn't work out and you admit it doesn't work out, that also looks twice as bad. That's why the situation in general is awful. That's why what Bobby said earlier and that we're all thinking about Zay, we are, because it's not fair to Zay and the Browns fan base. It's not fair. What you guys have been put through is ridiculous. I can't even think of a remotely close comparison to it. And this is just another example. You're now watching beloved guys leave because of it. And it's just not fair. And it totally sucks. And Zay, I've never felt as bad for a fan base as I do for you guys. And it's not because of even the losing. It's because of the ineptitude that is being forced upon you guys because of the worst contract probably ever made in the history of professional sports in the United States. And that, to me, I don't think is hyperbole. And you're watching it unfold here. And I'll give you one last thought here, Zay, as we continue to move forward here in the show, because I know this just after a loss like we watched the Browns endure this past weekend, to add this on top of it, it just feels like the insult to injury here isn't even the best way to put it anymore. I don't even know what it is.
It's been it's a roller coaster of emotions because nothing could have brought the city back to life, but the one person that came out and just broke the internet, and that was Nick Chubb. I know I came on here last week and said I was gonna be furious if they're clearly using them to sell some tickets this week. But the whole little Player Tribune article that he had, and knowing how much this means to him and what he wants to do, like, I don't know. If anything that's gonna give us any glimmer of hope is that guy. So that's the only thing that this city's rocking with, because I can tell you what, they're not going to the game to cheer. They're going to boo everyone.
We'll talk more about the Browns game in just a minute. Before we do, we got one big other major headline coming out of the AFC North that had nothing to do with the games, but has to do with the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh. And I don't know, the Amari Cooper move in a way somehow makes sense because Cleveland at this point is trying their best to, I don't know what the word is, but it just seems to make sense at where they're at, and they're trying to move forward here to some degree. The Russell Wilson is now named the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, you have Justin Fields, who's a play away from potentially having these Steelers at 5-1, yet they're 4-2 as they move into a winnable game coming up this weekend against the New York Jets. Bobby, I'll start with you here. When you saw that Russell Wilson was named the starter this upcoming week, your immediate reaction?
I was surprised, first and foremost. I've been following this, obviously, since the calf injury took place, since prior to that, when Mike Tomlin referred to Russ as being in pole position in terms of the quarterback battle over the summer. And now, after 6 weeks of that injury lingering and Mike being asked about it, really peppered, with questions week in and week out, but yet your quarterback, Justin Fields, is leading you, even if it is in a game manager-esque type of role, to a 4-2 record, and you're sitting atop the division entering week 7. What kind of message are you sending not only Justin, but every single member who's suiting up for you this upcoming weekend on Sunday night? From a Ravens perspective, I think I might rather see Justin because they've been susceptible on the back end. They have had deficiencies, to say the very least, within that secondary. And I think Russ, at this point in his career, and just more so than where Justin is at his career right now, can carve you up through the deep, with a deep ball, as a more thorough, polished passer. That's not to say that Justin doesn't have that ability. But I think I would take Russ over Justin in that category, and that's been a weakness of the Ravens. So that's the Ravens' perspective. But in terms of looking at it objectively, I'm just surprised, and I wonder what the feeling is internally, given what Justin has accomplished so far through 6 weeks.
How are you feeling about it, Zay, as you saw this move? And I want to clarify, by the way, I don't know if it's been directly announced in terms of this upcoming game, but what we do know is Russell Wilson assumed the starting quarterback role in practice again today. It just seems all but inevitable he's going to wind up starting this upcoming weekend, and that seems to be what the general consensus is. So with that in mind, Zay, your thoughts on when you saw Russell Wilson take over the QB1 reps for the Steelers?
I don't know. It's kind of weird, honestly. Especially, it'd be different if he came out and the offense only put up another 17-point performance or 18-point performance. They put up 30+ points, and he had 2 rush. I mean, I know he didn't throw it through the air, but it just feels like one of those things where if you're winning games, you kind of don't want to fix what isn't broken. I know it's not broken yet. You're seeing it teetering over there on that end table, but until it breaks, I mean, you've got a great security blanket, I feel like, in Russ, just for the presence that is the vet. I still think he can make decent throws. You're in the perfect organization, quite frankly. And there's always that extra spark when a new guy comes in, no matter what, because there may be guys in the locker room that do gravitate to Russ more than Justin Fields. That's always a possibility. So I'm curious to see how it pans out. I would honestly be shocked if they go Russ, though, this week.
Zim, how about you? Your thoughts on this? Is this a move you would personally make?
No, I think that once you make the move with Fields, the people in the locker room, like Bobby just said, the other guys in the locker room, the staff, everybody that's around it, you want to go with the guy that's earned it and gotten to that spot. I think thus far, Russell Wilson's probably done a lot behind the scenes that we haven't seen, but it's just like football code, bro. Like if he's playing well enough, he's not a detriment to the team. He's not hurting the team. I think he also mirrors what I think that they do best as a defensive first football team anyway. I think his rushing ability and the rushing that they're getting from Najee and they haven't gotten much from Warren. But I think those things go hand in hand with Justin Fields' rushing ability. So I don't know. I don't understand the move. I think moving forward, I honestly thought like their game plan, their skill level, and everything matches up with a more mobile quarterback like Justin Fields, who I think is perfect. They made a really good deal to go and get him. I think moving forward, I think that they should cater the offense around Justin Fields, and going away from that, it's harder than what I think that it's a fast track with Justin Fields. I think the Russell Wilson plan, dropping back, going through your progressions, all these different things for a lackluster wide receiving core is tough sledding to me. I think if they thought their offense was stagnant before, it's growing pains with a predominantly pocket quarterback. He does improvise, but he's not the same Russell Wilson he was like 8 years ago.
Bubba, talk to us. What's the overall pulse right now of the Pittsburgh fan base, and how do you personally feel about this potential move?
Well, when I heard about it, I couldn't believe it. But also, too, look, I'm okay with whoever is a quarterback. I know it sounds cliche, but I just feel like a couple of those passes Sunday could have been complete. He overthrew a couple of people. He's just not accurate. I mean, he's great on improvising and running, but I think Mike Tomlin always wanted Russell behind center, and this was just, he was pulling a trigger. He's going to do what he's going to do. Tomlin's going to say whatever he's going to say at these press conferences, and he wants to have the veteran Pro Bowl, Super Bowl quarterback underneath center, even though we don't have our center. He's injured this week, but this line is not going to be, it has to do something, because Wilson is not going to be like Justin Fields back there improvising and taking off like he does. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they use a lot more Freiermuth because he's been pretty much invisible. Van has been invisible. Like, these receivers are invisible, but they're not getting the ball. So we'll see, Sunday night. I don't know, but also too, it might be a money issue too. Something about if he gets 51% of the snaps, Justin, or something in a salary thing. I don't know, because I don't know the X's and O's and the dollar cents. But I mean, to me, it doesn't matter who we got, because now we know, Fields can play, but it's a coaching decision by Tomlin because he wants to see Russell Wilson. I do believe that's what he wants to do.
It'll be interesting either way Sunday night. Go Steelers. I got a feeling either one of those quarterbacks can take down the Jets on Sunday Night Football. All right, let's get into actual football here. Let's talk about what we saw this past weekend. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns that we spoke on a little bit earlier. 20-16 loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, to me, right now, they're not looking as good as a 3-2 record might indicate. And this game sort of proved that. The Cleveland Browns could have won this game. They did not turn the ball over. They played well defensively, holding Philly to 20 points. When you hold a team to 20, you're always going to have a shot. But unfortunately for the Browns, this offense just can't seem to string points together. And a 16-point outing in this game, and in any game for that matter, is rarely going to get it done. And that's what ended up resulting in a loss on the road for these Cleveland Browns. So, Bobby, I'll start with you here. The Browns fall to 1-5. Your biggest takeaway from this game and their loss to the Eagles?
Third down efficiency, or lack thereof.
I knew you were going there, Bobby.
That's just, how can you function as an offense when you go 3 for 12? And I thought the statistic that went viral, what was it?
0 for 26.
Yeah.
0 for 26. That is just, it's like made up. Like, you can't even, it's hard to truly put words into that. 3 for 12, it's just, yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind there. They were in the game, like we already mentioned. It wasn't a blowout like it has been at times this year. But times are bleak. I still think this team is going to somehow, like we said earlier on, I am a believer that they'll spoil something in this division, but they're not going to be up for it, and they're certainly not going to be playing for a postseason spot at this point.
Zim, how'd you feel about that game Sunday against Philly?
He took my thunder. I thought the 0 for 26 on third down efficiency, I don't even know how that's possible. I think the Browns are still the only team in the National Football League that hasn't scored 20 points. The one touchdown they got was on the Myles Garrett block field goal or something, and then he runs that back or whatever, or somebody runs it back. I don't know. That's all I saw from the game. I don't really think I've said what I've said the last couple of weeks about the Browns. I just feel like the cohesion and all the different things around that team have been lost.
The odd thing here is it wasn't like Philly was very good on third down either. They were only 5 of 14. The Browns defense, like I mentioned, they were able to do enough for most offenses to find a way to win this game. It's just the current state of what's going on the offensive side of the ball right now for Cleveland. Bubba, how did you feel about this game against Philadelphia for the Browns?
Well, it wasn't a blowout like I thought it would be. They held them pretty close. And actually, in that fourth quarter, I mean, Cleveland, it was until Hurts threw that touchdown pass. So it could have been anybody's game. I just think, their defense is still halfway decent, but with this Watson at quarterback, what are you going to do? Like, I feel bad for you, Zay, but I don't know what to say because it's just, they held him, and it wasn't like 35, like I said, and they got that blocked, special teams touchdown. Just their offense is right now is inept. So
it was anybody's game, like you said, though. It was 10-10 at half, 13-10 going into the fourth. Zay, in your best way you can, I guess, your takeaway from this game in terms of how it stacks up to the rest and knowing you could have had a shot here and they still found a way to not get out of there with a W.
That's pretty much been the story of our whole season. I mean, the past few weeks we have had opportunities to go down there. Just recently, the past 2 weeks, you've had an opportunity in the fourth quarter. And, I know a lot of stuff gets lost in the sauce because of how terrible Deshaun Watson is. But the fact remains that he puts you in position to not only go down and score, but potentially win the game and put the ball back in the defense's opportunity to go make a stop. You get down within the 5-yard line. He made the best throw in the game on 3rd of 11 in between double coverage to Amari Cooper. And you don't run the ball one time when you get down there. That's a recipe for 3 points. And that's exactly what happened. You get back-to-back false start penalties. And not only that, you got that last week as well. So the very small good things that Deshaun Watson does gets overlooked by all the other things, rightfully so. When Rodney McLeod is your leading leader in touchdowns at 2, that's a problem. That's a defensive player and a vet who's in a farewell tour because this is pretty much his last season, as he's made it been known. We had some stuff going, and Winston, when we had the drive going, they want to go Winston on a reverse to Cedric Tillman, who hasn't seen a target or any type of action in a sense since he dropped that 4th down. So there's a lot of bad things going on right now. As you can see, like I mentioned, Zim says, why would they want to go get Mike Williams? Well, I think if Deshaun Watson wants him at this point, they're going to give it to him. I mean, hell, you might as well tank. You might as well, because at this point, this will be the first time Andrew Berry will have a legit top 10 pick to where he can make an impact player. And I personally feel like he's got a lot of back heavy end ammunition. It's a perfect opportunity for us to maybe move up in the draft as well.
Let's transition to the Pittsburgh Steelers. One of the reasons why I found it odd that Russell Wilson might be coming in this week is because the Steelers put up 32 points this past week in a dominant W over the Las Vegas Raiders. It was so bad for the Raiders, they said, all right, fine, Devontae, we'll let you go after this week. 32-13 was the final. Really wasn't close at all. I mean, Aiden O'Connell had to throw the ball 40 times, and they still were only able to muster 13 points. Bobby, here's Pittsburgh, now 4-2. Like I mentioned earlier, if Dak doesn't convert a 4th down, they'd be 5-1 right now. They're making a quarterback change, but regardless of that, they're still well in the mix of the top of the AFC, much less the top of this division right now. So your overall takeaway from what you saw Pittsburgh display against the Raiders this past week?
Yeah, well, I like the way it's setting up for them the next couple of weeks. You got the 2 New York teams. You're going to be 2 separate trips to the Meadowlands, one against the Jets Sunday night, and then the following Monday night against the Giants, who obviously, I mean, I don't know if you want to call them a get-right game because they can sneak up on you any given Sunday or Monday, this case. But, with just how much has been happening off the field with the Jets, I just don't know if getting Devontae coming up on Sunday with all of the change, with Nathaniel being demoted and Saleh getting canned and just everything that's taken place there and some of the inconsistencies they've had in pass protection, I kind of like the Steelers' chances of going to spoil Devontae and Aaron's reuniting coming up on Sunday. But, yeah, I mean, the Raiders are the true get-right game, right? Except for around these parts in Baltimore,
Yeah.
who spoiled the Ravens home opener, of course, in week 2, which is still funny to think back, throughout this 4-game win streak. I think a lot of us around in the Baltimore areas are just like trying to wrap your head around the fact that they're statistically off the charts right now, and this offense is humming, and yet you can't close out the Raiders at home with a 10-point deficit, or a 10-point lead, excuse me. So anyway, we know what they're getting on the ground, Pittsburgh, with Najee Harris. We know what Pickens is all about. And now it's just the question becomes, coming off of Vegas and a legitimate defense that's been a little inconsistent with the Jets coming up, is all that change going to, speaking of cohesion, to use Zim's word earlier on, is that going to falter? Is that going to make, is it going to be an easy transition essentially from Fields to Wilson? That remains to be seen.
Zim, your thoughts on what Pittsburgh displayed this past weekend?
I thought they dominated. I mean, the Raiders could not run at all. I was very I don't even know if they had like 50 yards rushing. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Steelers just dominated. You're right, Bubba. He did miss some throws. I just think that's just, I don't know. I just think we've lost to Justin Fields at the very end. It was a bad game, but he outran Trey Hendrickson, and I'll never forget that game. It was like week 2 of like 2021 or whatever, and I just never forget that part. Like, when y'all got him, I said, that's exactly what you need for like a defensive team. I just think that they're probably, I don't know how their season's, going to go. I think they've already surpassed what I thought that they could do, because the little bit of offense that they have shown in a bunch of these spots are at crucial times. And I feel like a lot of teams that win games aren't necessarily the most potent offense or anything like that. It's the teams that figure out how to win at crucial points. And they always kind of figure out those ways throughout the season. They've also lost, like on the double-edged sword of that too. So I don't know. The Raiders, they're one of those teams that's kind of on the decline now. I guess different than when you saw them, Bobby. They got Max Crosby trade rumors and all types of stuff going on too. So it's a mess out here. Yesterday was a wild day, and I think that it's a lot that happened on Sunday, and then the results got a lot of motion going on.
Yeah, it's a mess in Vegas, no doubt about it. But this defense for Pittsburgh continues to dominate. And like you mentioned, Zim, the Raiders, they could not run the ball at all. They had 57 total yards, and Madison had 33 yards on 14 carries. His defense just continues to shut down everybody. Zay, your thoughts on what Pittsburgh showed us this past weekend?
Like I told you before, I don't have much on anything. I thought I'm in a time machine right now. I'm like 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Is Roethlisberger back in this joint? Like, what's going on? But I think, the league is slowly starting to show what can help you win games. And, if Najee Harris is going to go 14 carries for 106, that's a good recipe to put the ball to, dominate the time of possession and then give the ball back to the defense. And nobody does it better than Tomlin. So I can't believe I really we miss you, Mark, because damn it, we got to give you your flowers, man. We looked at you crazy when you said Pittsburgh was sitting there at the number 1 spot, and man, y'all coming through. So Mark, we miss you, brother, and I wish you were here to talk your stuff.
Bubba, 4-2, and now you're staring at 2 winnable games, one against the Jets, one against the Giants. So regardless of who's playing quarterback, if this defense continues to play the way that it does, can't be much to complain about, right?
No. And Mark should be back next week, hopefully, and it's been a pleasure being on. But anyway, we were one fumble. We got that fumble recovery. I wish we got it last week. We got it a week later, and
right.
We would have been 5-1. But right now, the injury bug on our offensive line, Frazier is not playing Sunday night. That scares me a little bit. But they were running the ball. Najee with that one run was like 16 yards, and they couldn't take him down. I mean, that was the Najee that we all want in Pittsburgh. And then he runs a 45-yard sprint to the end zone, flies over, like just amazing. That was his best game that I've seen since he beat Cleveland in Ben's last game when I was there. That last week was his best performance, I believe, as a Steeler, just running the ball. We have some issues with Broderick Jones. Could not stop Crosby to save his life. It was just bad. And turnovers we got 3. We didn't have any turnovers, and that's the key on the road. So, I mean, I'm happy with the situation, but I'm happy for a win no matter what. I mean, and we haven't scored 30 points since we lost to the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's been a couple years. So this is the first time in such a long time that we cracked the 30 mark. So I was happy about that, and we might have left maybe some points on the field too. So, anytime they play the Raiders, you just never know. And that's what I was worried about, but I always took Pittsburgh. But I'm happy with a win, and I'm happy that we're tied for first, and we cannot lose any ground to the Ravens at all.
Speaking of those Ravens, let's transition to the game that was billed as the game of the weekend this past Sunday. Ravens taking on the Commanders, and it lived up to the hype for the most part. Ravens win 30-23. And man, oh man, these Ravens, after not the best start in the world, are looking like they have the best offense in the league over the last month. 28, 35, 41, and 30 points in back-to-back weeks. In the 28 performance against Dallas, that being the lightest point total they've had in those past 4 games, it could have been a hell of a lot more. They took their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter, let Dallas come back a bit. But these Ravens right now are humming offensively. Lamar Jackson looks as good as ever, and Derrick Henry has evolved into the back that they were hoping he would be for these Ravens. Another 100-plus yard performance for Derrick Henry. Lamar well over 300 yards in this game. Zay, your thoughts on how Baltimore is looking right now? Because the way this offense is moving, it looks like they're the team to beat currently, maybe in the NFL as a whole.
Ever since that one Baltimore fan got on Marlon Humphrey, and then Marlon Humphrey went live after the win to Lamar Jackson and said, I don't know what you laughing for. We need to be locked in. Man, they've been humming. And I'm glad, I'm glad we're not in the race, because damn it, y'all scary as hell right now, and I wouldn't want to play y'all. Derrick Henry is best running back in the league again until Nick Chubb get back out there. But other than that, but I don't know. They look like one of the best teams in the league, and this is exactly where we thought they would more than likely be.
Zim, these Ravens, they're humming. They do it once again. Another 30-point performance. They beat the Commanders. Lamar now, 22-1 against the NFC. They just continue to motor. Your thoughts on Baltimore right now?
Yeah, they're one of the best teams in the league. I thought the turnover from the secondary, I mean, I guess you see some of that in the secondary with in the secondary as far as giving up passing yards and stuff like that throughout the season. But I thought like some of the turnover would have bigger effect on them. And then I also didn't think, and as a result, I thought that teams would score more, and then it would take Derrick Henry off the field. But as long as they have a lead, you can't get them off the field. And that's the big issue, is like, you know what I mean? Like when we played them, we sold out to the run, so we had to get killed by the pass. So you could take that too. But if you do that, you better have a McDuffie, a Snead on the back end or something like that, because everybody's getting singled up. So it's really like you got to pick your poison. When I think about this team, I'm just like, I knew that the Commanders couldn't match up with them. I thought the Commanders could maybe score like 28 or something like that. They made Jaden Daniels look kind of normal at times from what I've seen. Like he killed us. So it's hard for me to even think of a team that I could think that could even match up with them, unless you got like an elite secondary, might be in the division and got a good defense or something like that. I feel like the other two teams in our division are the only teams that probably know enough about them that can match up with them. If they play anybody in the NFC, I don't know what these coaches do during the week. I don't know what they're trained or whatever. I remember them beating the hell out the Lions, and like none of those teams scout or do anything to prepare themselves on the read option or anything with them. I've never seen an NFC team. I don't even count the Daniel Jones game. I remember like Gus Edwards fumbled. Like they could have won that game. So like when I look at it, it's just one of them things. I'm like, unless something changes with their roster coming up, I just don't see a team that could really match up with them. You could score with them maybe, and that's what the Bengals did. And at the end, we didn't win. So like I don't know. I just think teams in the division are only teams that even have any bit of like intel on how to stop this team.
Bubba, this is the team you're duking it out with so far here, tied with the Ravens for first place. But man, it's funny. You guys seem to be the most dominant defense in the league. The last month, the Ravens seem to be the most dominant offense in the league. What are your thoughts right now on how Baltimore has looked over the last month or so?
Well, that's Sunday's game. I mean, Lamar Jackson almost had a total of 400 total yards, rushing almost 60, over 300 yards passing. Henry's coming on like he's just rejuvenated. That's scary. The receivers are catching the ball. They are scary. This is probably the scariest offense probably in the NFL. Their defense, not so much like it used to be, but anytime they play interdivision, any one of us, it's like a big slugfest. So it all depends. And I think the Steelers are, I think Lamar's 2-6 against the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken. And we always play, that's a big game for the whole division in a whole, the whole NFL in a whole. I mean, that game Sunday should have been flexed out of a 1 o'clock, and no offense, should have been a 4 or the 8 o'clock game. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But as of right now, they are a strong. If they had to play the Kansas City Chiefs this week coming, I think the Ravens would actually take Mahomes down if they were playing this week, because they look pretty good.
I was saying, Bobby, holding it down for B more. Let's go, man. Let's go, Bobby. I mean, the Flock Nation right now has got
the music.
They got to be feeling as good as ever right now. Talk to me about where you're at with these Ravens and how great they've looked for really 4 consecutive weeks here.
Remind me to tell you where that MAGA Bobby nickname came from.
Left that out.
Just got randomly labeled to me recently, that's a story for another time. But so they just dominated the time of possession. That wasn't even close. 36 minutes to 23 minutes and change for Washington. So that was a big part of it. They played a clean football game, aside from that opening drive interception, which snapped a streak. The previous 5 consecutive weeks of scoring on the opening drive. You kind of thought, oh man, maybe it would give the rookie and of course Jaden and the Washington offense an opportunity to kind of get a shot in the arm there early. But to Todd Monken's credit, to Lamar's credit, they just put their foot on the pedal, and they're just killing. Like Zim said, if teams want to sell out, to stop the run and stack the box and take that element out, then it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, and they're willing to. Lamar, I think, is doing just a fantastic job of distributing the football, making checks accordingly at the line of scrimmage, showing off this new element of this pro style offense in year 2 with Todd. And you're getting big contributions from Zay Flowers, who, you go around the league and he may not be wide receiver 1 elsewhere, but he certainly is in Baltimore. And I think Rashad Bateman's playing good complementary football for him. So, yeah, you get the sense they're going to go on a run right now. But, Zim, I agree with you. I think Pittsburgh and Cincy are going to, as it always is in AFC North football, I think they're going to give them all they can handle. And I could honestly see a situation where those end up being the only close games the rest of the way. I'm not saying the Ravens aren't going to lose the rest of the way, but they just feel like they've found something offensively, identity-wise, that they're going to go on a run right now. They've already ripped off 4 wins in a row. They're healthy, knock on wood for Ravens fans, and this offense is humming. I mean, you look around at the categories: yards per game, rushing yards per game, third down percentage, red zone touchdown percentage, sacks allowed, and first downs per game. They are first in every single one of those categories, and we were not talking about the offensive line in that regard a month ago. So things are clicking.
Can I say one thing though? You got a matchup that we're going to talk about later on now. You say not close. You got a guy that's leading the National Football League in passing touchdowns. He's up there in passer rating and everything like that. He ain't no joke. Zay knows him very well. His name is
Baker. Yeah, Monday night. Yeah. I don't want to act as if that's I don't think they're gonna lay down at all, especially it's in Tampa Bay. But that.
Yeah, I don't think you were saying that, but he's been like in some of those spots or whatever. He's been pretty impressive though.
Yeah, last time I checked, it's an NFC team.
I was just gonna say
it is an NFC team.
It is an NFC team.
Yeah.
Plus, Tampa's defense is nothing special either. So I don't know. Well, that could be a very, very high scoring game. But right now, I'd have a hard time betting against anything that these Lamar Jackson led Ravens are doing offensively. Quan's coming in. He's saying Josh Allen couldn't last 6 weeks without a 1. Respect to Lamar. Hopefully,
Yeah.
DK, which is DK Metcalf, takes another coach's headset off and gets traded to Baltimore. If DK goes to Baltimore, you will never see me on here again. I am done. You can put your Super Bowl bets in on the Ravens over on BetUS. I think that team, as Zim likes to coin them, a super team. That might very well be a super team if DK Metcalf wound up going to the Baltimore Ravens. Habitual line stepper coming in. He's saying, almost missed the show, was busy cashing out with BetUS. Speaking of which, did I miss Zay's explanation of being swept by the NFC East? Please let Tomlin stick with Russ. Well, we're about to get, I thought that said Zim. It's Zay's explanation of being swept. Habitual, you're late here. Zay he's taken it in stride, damn it. I'll speak for him. He has taken it in stride. He's been a true trooper.
I blame CJ Stroud for getting swept by the NFC East too. He was doing all that talking to Minka Parsons, talk about nobody was talking about the NFC East, and here we go getting swept by him. I blame you, CJ Stroud.
Unbelievable. Well, speaking of the NFC East, one of the teams within the AFC North played the NFC East this past weekend, and one of the most boring games I have ever watched in my entire life, but Zim doesn't care. It resulted in a W. The Cincinnati Bengals improved to 2-4. They get the dub on Sunday Night Football, 17-7. And I'll just say this, that Giants defense is way better than it gets credit for, especially that front four. They were dominant in that game, but they have no offense to speak of, and they could not get anything going. That's why they get 7 points and get out of there with a 10-point loss. Zay, I'll start with you here. Bengals bounce back. What did you take away from this, though? Because the Bengals offense was dominating, and the Giants really did a solid job of shutting them down throughout this game. And if it wasn't for a long run for Joe Burrow, the longest run by a quarterback in Bengals franchise history, this could have wound up being a different game. Your thoughts from Sunday Night Football?
What did I take away from this? Did you not understand that this was an 8:00 game? Mine ended at like 3:30. I was asleep. Okay. I was catching Z's. There was no way. I was hoping to wake up and be like, let me watch this 40 to 13 point highlight like I predicted. And then I look at it, I'm like, these mother lovers barely won. So I'm like, I don't know. You get 2 straight weeks of 30 plus points. Maybe they run out of gas. They played lower down to their competition. I wish I could give you a better analysis, but it's been, like I told you, it's been a long couple days. I was knocked out by the time this game even kicked off.
Zay's just been chugging NyQuil, it sounds like, just trying to get past what these Browns got going on right now. My man in the background, though, I can't stop. Every time you're talking, I can't stop looking at him. He's just mean mugging me the whole time right there. Even he's had enough.
He's living his best life this year. Just know that.
You haven't been beating him up? I figured you'd be beating him up more than ever.
We're 1-5. Like, he usually gets the most when we're going crazy, when we're winning. We ain't been winning
care anymore. Yeah.
Bro, he's living his best life. He's on vacation.
Bubba, did you watch Sunday night? And if you did,
No. No, I did not. I watched the highlights. 12 minutes, I couldn't get back. And I thought it was going to be a blowout by Cincinnati, but that Giants defense, kept them around. I mean, Daniels is 1-19 in primetime games. So, I mean, right there is just, not where it wasn't they should have had the Ravens Washington game at 8:00. I would have stayed up for that.
Yeah, CBS said, nope, we're not letting you have it. And this game felt like a 1:00 game. The Ravens game felt like the 8:00 game, as we all thought it would. Bobby, what were your thoughts from what Cincy put out on display Sunday? And as the schedule kind of unfolds here coming up for them, they got some winnable games heading into November here. So, here comes here comes Cincinnati to some extent, but they didn't look overly impressive on Sunday night. What were your thoughts?
Well, yeah, this is just starts a stretch for them that it's a bunch of must-haves, and this was a must-have. It was an ugly clunker. I caught a little bit of it. I'm with you, Bubba. I thought selfishly I was glad that Ravens Commanders didn't get flexed to this game because of just life. Right. But I think a lot of the country would have wanted to see that one rather than this. But for Cincy, they got to go on a run here. This was game one of maybe a soft month-long schedule or so. I don't have do you have their schedule up in front of you, Z?
Yeah, I got it. I mean, coming up here, you got Cleveland, Philadelphia, and the Raiders right there. I think those are 3 games that Baltimore can win. Or excuse me, I keep saying it. The reason I say that, though, is because Baltimore is the next game after that stretch.
Yeah.
So the next 3 here, though, you'd have to think that Cincinnati will probably be favored in all 3 of them.
Yeah, yeah. So Right. So this was a must-have. When I saw the time of possession statistic, I was pretty surprised. I mean, New York absolutely dominated Cincy, 34 minutes to 25 minutes and change for Cincy, and yet Cincy finds a way to win 4 of 11 on third down. This was not a fun football game to watch whatsoever, aside from if you like seeing Joe Burrow go for the longest of his career on the ground, mind you. But yeah, since he's going to be around, they're going to hang around, and I expect Thursday night in November, like you said, Z, that game to be very meaningful based on how they go on. I'm sure they're going to handle this next month-long stretch leading into that primetime game in Baltimore accordingly, so that's a meaningful one come Thursday night.
Interesting element about that Joe Burrow run. It was a 47-yard touchdown run. He finished the day as the leading rusher for the Bengals with 55 yards. And they really were not doing much offensively. It's just the Giants, man. And if you look at the Giants throughout the year here, talk about a team that if they just had even what the Steelers have had on offense, it almost seems somewhat similar in a way where the Giants defense has seemingly done enough in multiple games. The offense just hasn't. That's why I think there is some head scratching to be had here with Justin Fields, because despite the fact the numbers aren't that great, you look at the outcome, and they have done enough. The Giants have not, and that's why they have the opposite record of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would ask Zim about his thoughts on his first W quite a bit here, but he said, I'm out. I have no message from him. Fellas, any idea did Zim just say goodnight, or do we think he'll be back?
That wind, man, that Cincinnati, he keeps changing it. It's changing the trajectory of his signal. He's got to chill, bro.
It could have been the kitchen. I don't know. The audio was off in the beginning in the kitchen. Now he's vanished. It's not like Zim to vanish when he's about to have his winning moment.
His Cincinnati moment. Yeah.
I was ready for this. I knew he had like an essay ready to go. He got to PowerPoint it all out.
Well, I think, look, you look at this game, and we've all said it in different ways. It's a shitty game. I don't think he even wants to talk about it. And you, in order to build up your team after that win, that's easier said than done. I know he would have found a way to do it, but that's tricky after that clunker.
Maybe he's looking through the dictionary to get some fancy words to come back and actually tell us what he thought.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I know he went to the game, and I'm pretty sure he was sitting in the press box next to the owner. I think I seen a tweet where he said he was wasted, so he may not even remember a lot. So that probably, it's probably for the best. He saw just enough. He watched the highlights just like us, and he enjoyed his time. I was more happy to see the pictures with him and his son with all the players. That was fantastic. That's what it's all about, baby.
No doubt. And Zim wasted watching that game remembers as much as me dead sober on the couch watching that game, because that's how much of that game was meant to be remembered. Now I will continue to filibuster here as I see Zim in the background.
There he is.
There he is. I don't know what happened, but he's coming in at a perfect time. Zim, we've been filling space for you here so you could come up and give us your winning rant. What happened?
I don't know what's going on. As soon as I came on here tonight, my touchscreen on my computer has been like tripping out. Like, I'm so mad at that. I apologize for that, guys.
You're good. But hey, the floor is yours. We're talking about a Cincy W. Tell us about it.
I thought that for most of the season, we've been saying that the defense was so bad. Defense is terrible. If you really go back and look at a lot of the games, their passing defense hadn't really been bad, but overall not playing well. And I thought for the first time in the season, this is the first time that the Bengals got all of their defensive line back. So I thought a lot of that showed in Rankins, like he showed. Mike Hilton didn't play the previous game, whatever. He showed up a bunch of spots or whatever, who's one of our best like slot run defenders as well, and one of the best corners on the team. I thought like us seeing those guys all come back, I thought there was a level of cohesion, and I thought that they played better with each other or played better as a team. The week prior, the thing that scared me when I came on the show is Daniel Jones threw for like 260, 2 tutties, 29 points. They went up against the Seahawks defense, who I like their coordinator, and I like McDonald and stuff like that. So I was a little bit like worried about that. But the passing defense hasn't really been like the bigger issue. In that game, Tracy went crazy on them, and I was monitoring that because I think he ran for like 150. So then when he played us, I thought our defense like finally held serve for a full 4 quarters. I thought we had a pretty good plan against Derrick Henry in that game, but like I said, you gave up so much. Derrick Henry had 41 yards through 4 quarters, and then he had the big run in the overtime. But that's not good enough. And I thought for the first time all season, they kind of put it together. One thing I've been telling people is I didn't think that Burrow in a lot of these games that we could have won, yes, his numbers are staggering. Right now, if we had a winning record, I think he'd be the leader for MVP, in my opinion. Number one quarterback rating, second in touchdowns, yards fifth, any category that you want, he's top 1, top 3 in all of them. But the thing that he hadn't been doing, like whether it was the Chiefs game, he didn't close them out and gave them the opportunity for 4th and 16. Whether it was the Ravens game, he had the ball with 1 minute and 34 seconds and he didn't close them out. You see what I'm saying? So he did it for the first time, though. Giants game, he gets the ball at the end when he had to have it the most. We get the stop, 3 minutes left, comes down, Cooks, throws a crazy pass on 3rd down to Yoshi, game's over. We get the late touchdown, which, I mean, it's kind of like garbage time at that point. But I thought for the first time, he had a chance to just manage the game and win games a lot like what the Bengals generally do. Get a lead, kind of sit on the lead and rely on the run defense and then get you in 3rd down situations. And
there you have it. There you have it, folks. Week 6 is in the books, and week 7 could be even better. There are some awesome games on the slate within this division, and we will be previewing them in an episode later this week. So on your way out the door, make sure to hit the like button and really make sure to hit the subscribe button. That way you're notified of that upcoming episode, as well as all future episodes of the AFC North table, all AFC North Roundtable, I should say. And also on your way out the door, take advantage of the promo code we have going on for you over at BetUS. The code is YouTube150. That'll get you 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit and 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits after that. For Zay, Bobby, Bubba, and Zim, I'm your host, Z-Bot. Thanks so much for tuning into the AFC North Roundtable.
That left hook, man, was clean.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Sorry.